evening, friends and neighbors. Or shall I say this afternoon?
Welcome back to the Broncos franchise on Madden 22. I'm your host, longtime listener. Be sure to drop a like, hit the subscribe button, and comment below. We've got the third mock draft complete now, and what we'll do is take a look at who we are projected to be taking, and it is Will McPherson, middle linebacker out of Florida. And if I remember correctly, we actually kind of focused in on this guy anyway. He's got B for tackling. He's 6'4", 239, 23 years old. He's got very good speed and strength, excellent acceleration, pretty good agility and change of direction. So the physicals are there. And he's also got B's across the board here, as you can see: awareness, tackling, hit power, stamina, finesse moves. So this guy could be an absolute stud. And if we can get him late in this first round without even having to move up in the draft, I think that's one that we would go for, because I kind of want to lock down a middle linebacker of the future. I think defense is going to be our priority in this draft, because we're pretty well set offensively, with the exception of right tackle. Like, if you look there on the right-hand side, team needs, we're decent in just about every one of those, with the exception of right tackle, where we had Massey last year, or the first year, and then Fluker this past season, and he's going to be gone. And then defensively, we need a right end. We're a little bit soft at left end. We're soft up the middle. We're soft at outside linebacker. And frankly, Kenny Young being our middle linebacker long term is just not a situation that I want to have. So I think that that's a position we look to address. And then strong safety, another one that we've got to be concerned about, because Kareem Jackson will be gone. Let's look at the 2022 retirements now at the end of this season. Let's see here. Russell Okung. Julio Jones, a big one. Cordarrelle Patterson. Rodney Hudson, a really good center for a long time. Antonio Brown, he was in the news this week in real life for his shenanigans. And then it looks like a bunch of free agent guys. So Tom Brady's coming back. Ben Roethlisberger is hanging him up after nobody picked him up last year. A.J. Green, Jimmy Smith, Joe Flacco, Josh Norman. Didn't keep up with his career, but he had that year or two where he was just like the best corner in the league, and I wonder if he ever got to where he's got like Hall of Fame worthy numbers or not. Geno Atkins, Golden Tate, Earl Thomas, and Pete Carroll is walking. Lost in a tough one to Tampa in the NFC Championship, and that's it for him. So that's it for retirements. And now I don't think there's anything else that we really need to do in this week, because there are no players that are up for contract negotiations before we move into free agency. And now is where what we're going to have to do is actually look at our roster and figure out what our needs are. So bear with me a second here. I'm trying to pull up a notepad on my phone, because we're going to need this here. So let's go to let's go to our roster. So at quarterback, we're okay. We've got Brett Morris. He's going to be our QB of the future. Actually, no, we need a backup, because apparently Drew Lock is gone. So there's that. At running back, I think we're okay. Cohen's going to be okay for another season. And then we've got Stevenson behind him, who's got a star dev trait, and could end up being really good before too long anyway. And then Hawkins there as a fourth option. I don't know if he was like a automatic signing or whatever, because I don't remember adding him to the team. Ingold is good at fullback. Wide receiver, this is interesting. TJ Patrick is 29 years old. We've got 5 respectable receivers, 2 really good ones, 1 pretty good one, and then 2 that are just okay. I would say realistically, we might look at like a fourth wide receiver in the draft, but I'm not going to go get anybody in free agency. Tight end, we're still good at the top, and then Saubert as our third option is fine. So I don't think we're going to actually do anything there, because Noah Fant is good enough that I'm really happy with him as our go-to option. And even Albert O as the backup, you look at like his speed, acceleration, etc. They're very comparable to what Fant's got, so they're both athletic. So we're good there. Left tackle, I think we need a second one for sure, and it might need to be one that is actually like low to mid 70s, so that when Bulls is gone, maybe they step in for a year or so and fill that role. We also need a backup left guard. I think we're good at center. Yep. We're good at right guard, and I think this is the year where we make this switch and give Miners the reins at right guard. Right tackle, we need a starter. So that's a big one. We've got to find an offensive tackle, and really two that are decent. Draymond Jones played pretty well for us last year at left end. I think we're going to stick with him. He's only 26 years old, so we'll let him hold down that position. Harris is becoming an issue because he's just not very good. He did not play well last year. So what we're going to do is we're going to say that we would like to get a starting right end, but it's kind of like a only if it's there kind of thing. That's probably a free agent move that we try to accomplish. Defensive tackle, we're not bad, but let's maybe look for, you know what, let's stick with what we've got. In a 3-4, we don't need that many anyway. Purcell will go away next year, and that's when we'll address defensive tackle. Left outside linebacker, Malik Reed is okay. We'll stick with him for right now just because we've got so many other positions that we're looking to try and address. Middle linebacker 1 is something that I want. Kenny Young, again, not our long-term answer. Andy's 27. We're not very good here. Browning is 24. He's the youngest, but he's only a 71. I don't see anybody on this team or on this roster right here that's a long-term, like, yeah, that's my guy. So let's try and find somebody there. Chubb is all right, and then Cooper as the backup we're okay with for right now because Chubb's done a decent job staying healthy. Now, at corner, we've got Surtain, who's going to be a stud. Darby will be okay this year, and then OJ Mudia as our nickelback is not that bad, but we need 2 corners, which is, you know, something that we'll probably have to try and get one in free agency and then maybe one in the draft. We'll see how that goes. We're good at free safety, and even Stearns as the backup, like we're in pretty good shape there. Now, strong safety, Johnson is okay. But what I'm going to say is this is another one where, like, if there's a strong safety that's there that we could get relatively cheap, we try and do that. But, okay, and we need a punter. So that's what we need to address in the offseason. All right. Now, let's actually go and look and see who is there in free agency. We've got $44.5 million in cap room. That's a lot, which means that we can do some things here. Let's start by looking at QBs. And basically what I'm looking for here is someone down deep on the list. Like now is the chance for us to bring Drew Lock back. Now that he's in free agency, I think we can maybe try and steal him. Although I kind of like the idea of bringing in Gardner Minshew. He's not wanting as much money. He's a year older. But I want Minshew Mania in Denver. He's cheaper and he's almost as good anyway. So let's see what we can do with him as our backup. Let's just go a 2-year offer. I'm not doing anything with the signing bonus, really. And we're even going to reduce the salary, because I'll bet you we can get him for well less than what he's asking. All right, so that's that. He's not crazy about that, but I don't really care. Now, wide receivers, again, if we get one, we're going to get one in the draft. So we're moving all the way down to left tackle here. We need a backup left tackle. And again, we're looking for somebody who's actually pretty decent and relatively young that could maybe step in for a year or so. Like, how about, like, we've got Dillard, 74 overall, and he's 27 years old. Or Christian, who's 26, but he's only a 71 overall. So we kind of have to hope that he progresses faster. Let's see who's more balanced. So 71, 69, 66, 74. So I think it's this guy. Let's give him this 2-year deal. We're going to drop down both of the money sides of the offer, and I'll bet you he's going to like that deal. So that will help us where now, if I draft a tackle, it's probably in the second round, and we're hoping that it's somebody that either A, is good enough to start, or if they can have that hidden dev trait, they'd be a backup this year. We'll just put Dillard at right tackle. And I think we're okay. Now we need a backup left guard. Don't need anything spectacular here. Let's just look for somebody relatively young. 27 years old is probably as good as we're going to find here. So let's go with, I don't know how you pronounce this, Bager. It's one of those weird pronunciations, I'm sure. Botger. Anyway, we're going to give him, he wants 1 year, $2.43 million. We're going to make it 2 years, reduce the signing bonus and the salary, and try, let's actually see if we can get him for $2 million a year. And I bet you we will. So that addresses our left guard situation. Now, we will need a corner. Let's go get that figured out first. They don't need to be anything stellar here, because we've got 3 that are okay. So let's come down and find somebody. I like Oruwariye. He's made some good. I'm doing a Lions season on the side, and he's a playmaker. But he's got 3 people interested in him already. I don't want to deal with that competition, so let's go a little farther down here. Let's get down into the like low 70s actually, now that I think about it, because if I draft somebody, I want them to have a chance to start or be like our dime back this year. So Nick Nelson, 26 years old, 73 overall. He's good in man coverage. He's pretty decent in the slot. We're going to make him a 2-year deal worth $5.1 mil. So that's actually relatively cheap, and I think we'll get him for that anyway, so that's that. Now, the 2 question mark positions that I think I want to look at were right end. Okay, so Montez Sweat is a good player, but he doesn't fit our 3-4. He's 260 pounds. We need a guy that's more like 280. And there's just no one here that I see as a good answer to take over that right end position for Shelby Harris. What about left end? Because they could play either one. But here, same situation. There's nobody that's like a stud. So I think we just kind of let that ride this year, and maybe we can get somebody in the draft, like in the 3rd round. Because it's not something that we've got to do right now. Our defense was good last year. And if we add a really good middle linebacker, we can get better. Now, here's a challenge. I want to pick up a strong safety, and this is probably the guy. There's going to be competition for him. But Kari Willis, 27 years old, star dev trait. He's a 79 overall. I mean, there's Kareem Jackson. He's still a pretty decent player, but I want somebody who can help us for several years. So he wants a 3-year contract, which I am totally fine with. He's going to be in the high 70s to low 80s for the next 3 to 4 years minimum. What I want to do actually is look at his injury rating. Can I move down here? Injury is 89. That could be an issue. I don't see anything there, but whatever. Let's do it, but we're going to make it a 3-year offer. And let's just go leave the signing bonus. Actually, let's up the signing bonus. I want this guy, so I want to make him an aggressive offer. We're going 3 years, 19.2 mil, and please, for the love of Pete, take that. It's going to put me way out in front in that bidding. And we still have some money available here. And that will leave us... Well, let's just do that round right there and see how things go. Because we've got 3 or 4 offers there, and I only have 10 positions that we need to address this offseason, with one of them being corner where we actually need 2 guys. But anyway, hang on 1 second. All right, so let's go ahead and advance to week 2. I know that there are combine results to look at, but looking at them really doesn't help me at all. It just kind of, you know, I will eventually look at all of that all at once to figure out who we're going to draft, but until we get to the week where we need to pick 3 guys to come in for a closer evaluation, nothing really matters too much. Although now that the Pro Day results are in, I might actually want to look at this stuff. Look at this. We signed 5 players. We've got Dillard, Minshew, we got Willis, which is big, Botker, and Nelson. So now, let me go into my list here, because I no longer need a QB2. I no longer need a left tackle 2. I still need a right tackle 1, but that's one where I'm going to actually call it or 2 because we can move that guy over. I don't need a strong safety anymore, and I only need 1 corner. So now I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 positions, and one of them is right end, which is like not critical because Shelby Harris can do a decent job for us there. So the big one is middle linebacker, and we're still in a pretty good position, I would imagine, to get that McPherson out of Florida. Let's see if they still have us projected to get him. They do not. So I'll bet you after the Pro Day he moved up the board. Where the heck is he? No, he moved down. Okay. I'm not taking a running back. What is this guy's deal here? So Tremaine Williams, he looks like a stud, and he's moving up the board. He's got really good speed and athleticism. He's strong. And I don't like that man coverage, but the B, awareness, play recognition, and tackle are all pretty good. So that's kind of interesting. He would be there. That McPherson would still be there. What's the deal with this Khalid Duncan that they have me taking way higher than he's projected? C, catching. He's fast and quick. Wow, those are actually pretty impressive. B, awareness, B, spin move, A, stiff arm. the A for catching is not a huge concern. I'd like to know what his carrying is, and we're probably not going to know that. So maybe that's somebody that we look at in the second round if he's still there, but we're not taking a halfback with our first pick. It's not even a position that I feel like we need to address at all. And we are planning on basically taking the best player on the board. But the key is first priority, I believe, would be filling needs. And that middle linebacker one is going to be pretty attractive. Although we're not terrible there either. So, all right, I'm not doing anything else in free agency. I'm happy with what we got already. So let's go ahead and let's make sure that nothing else happened here. I can't imagine that anything has changed. Yeah, still no Broncos on that list. All right, now we can move forward to week 3 of free agency, and I think we'll be to where we'll need to select some players to have them come in for workouts. Yeah. So what I need to do at this point is save it, go find out who we're going to do there, and then we'll reload it, select those 3, and move forward. All right, so what we're going to do is start here on the players list. And ultimately what I want to be accomplishing here is really kind of fine-tuning my entire list of targets, really. But I probably don't want to do it until after we actually decide who we're going to bring in for workouts. So the key position, I think, is going to be middle linebacker. So let's start there. Now, remember, they had me, I believe, taking this guy, Tremaine Williams. And what we saw from him, we liked. But let's look at this guy and see what he did in the Combine and Pro Day. Those are okay, but not quite as impressive as the other dude. Although I really like the fact that he's got all Bs right there. I wonder if I could get him in the second round. Man, would that be something. I doubt it, though. All right. So, Tremaine Williams. B tackling. He's a year younger, which I like, and he is more athletic. I don't think there's any question about that looking at those. Now, the man coverage doesn't worry me too much because I will almost always be controlling this guy anyway. And we don't do a lot of man coverage, to begin with. So, I think this might be the guy. So he would be one. So that's Williams at middle linebacker that we will bring in. Now, let's go and look at defensive end just in case there's someone there like this guy that's a stud. I probably need to look at the mock draft though. Like, I like all Bs right there. It's really impressive. His physicals aren't the greatest considering he's a big guy and his bench reps are only 28. That's a little bit of a concern. And he's injury prone, so forget that. We'll check out this guy as well, because he's a big body. 303 pounds. We don't know any of his key ratings. He's super strong. Wow, those physicals are very impressive. Skills, A, play recognition, C, awareness, B, hit power, B, impact block. That's a guy that's a maybe. I wonder if we can't steal, what's his face? McPherson in the second round. So let's go and look at Webster at right end as a possible option. And then right tackle. Wow, projected third or fourth round is not very promising. Can't run block at all. He's not very strong, so that's a no. I'm looking for guys that are moving up the board, not down it like this guy. But why is he moving down the board? Decent run blocker. Those aren't very impressive. Let's go look at left tackle. Because again, we're basically looking for either a first string right tackle or a second string left tackle that we could then move Dillard over to right tackle. So pretty good pass blocker, not a good run blocker. And the physicals are actually pretty good. The strength was a concern at the combine, but he vastly improved it at the pro day to where I don't think it's a huge issue, especially because he looks pretty agile. But F for run block, A for those other couple are pretty impressive actually. So that's a maybe. Because he might be there late in the first round. We'll have to look at that. So let's say Hazelwood at left tackle as a possibility here. And then we'll look a few farther down here just in case it looks like there are any gems. C for pass blocking. He's not very strong, but he looks pretty quick, perhaps. Run blocking is decent. That's really all we know about him. So I'm not crazy about that guy just because I don't know enough about him. How about Chris Banks? B impact block, C pass block. His physicals are decent. The strength at the pro day, 38 bench reps, is pretty impressive. Skills, B impact block, B pass block power. So he's a respectable pass blocker at tackle. Don't know enough about run blocking to be real confident, but Banks at right tackle or left tackle is a maybe. So we got Hazelwood and Banks. And the reality is, if I take that middle linebacker in the first round, we're looking at a second round pick for tackle. Okay, he looks like a decent pass blocker. He's not strong, but he is quick. And those are actually all kind of decent. The strength worries me, but Dixon at left tackle is another possibility. I think we need to kind of decide who we think is going to be the right pick. I'm leaning towards this Banks guy in the second round, and then either Williams or Webster in the first round, because I'm not sure we can get Hazelwood either. What I need to do is go back and look at the mock draft, which I just passed up in that menu to come back to this one, and now I got to go back into it anyway. So I want to look at this latest mock draft, because if Hazelwood is still there late in the first round, maybe he's an option. And he looks like he would be. So the question then becomes, if I take him in... Wait. Oh, that's mock draft 1. I want mock draft 4. So actually, okay, see, he is still there with that 30th pick. Now the question becomes, can I take him and then, like, try and trade my way up to either get this guy or McPherson at middle linebacker? That would be my objective here, because frankly, beyond those two positions, I don't have any critical needs. So I think that's going to be my strategy. So Hazelwood is our, first priority, I guess, here. He can't run block, but his physicals are pretty good, and I don't think we're going to get any better options to where, like, if I don't take him, I don't know. you know, actually, now that I think about it, I think Banks in the second round would be the better choice, and then just get the middle linebacker that we want here without having to make any trades. Because that way, then I still have a decent third round pick instead of having to trade it away, and maybe I get a pretty good wide receiver or corner in the third round and or fourth round. So what we need to do now is reload the save file, go back in and highlight those guys to bring them in for workouts. All right, so here we go. We're going to go into private workouts. Madden or EA Sports still needs to fix this because I don't feel like it works the way it's supposed to. Where you would think if you brought a guy in for private workouts, you would learn a lot about them, but it doesn't always work out that way. But nonetheless, what we're going to do is we're going to go to middle linebackers, and we're going to bring Tremaine Williams in for a closer evaluation. Then we're going to go to right end, and we're going to bring James Webster in for a close evaluation. I wonder if we could get those two guys through some trades and still get one of these left tackles. I think Banks is the guy that is the most likely candidate here. So let's bring those three in for workouts. And now I believe we're ready to move forward to free agency period number 4, which should be the end of free agency, and show us the final mock draft. So I really wish you could see a mock draft that went through 2 rounds, because those are the picks that are super critical, and it's hard to know whether you need to trade up if you haven't seen any kind of projections that far down the draft board. Just give me something to work off of. So, all right. Let's look at this 5th mock draft to see if anything has changed. They still have me taking that running back. They've still got Hazelwood here, but now what happened to the linebacker? So now Williams isn't even up here in this first round. And I'm starting to think that we might be able to get... Where is actually, what's his name? Webster at defensive end. Is he up here? He's not. So we might be able to get a linebacker and either a tackle or a left or a right end. I think what we might try to do is see if we can't get Banks or Dixon, those offensive tackles, farther down. And the objective now is, all right, so let's go here to left tackle. Banks is a power left tackle. We got him very well scouted now. C, B, C, and D. We know the physicals are pretty... Oh, you know, they're okay, and he's an injury liability. So Banks now comes off the board. I am not drafting you at offensive line if you can't stay healthy, especially if I know that you're not likely to stay healthy. So now we hone in on Webster, who we didn't learn anything about him when he came in for the closer evaluation, which is garbage. And now, like, I'm flying blind here. I don't know any of his key ratings. I really like his physicals, and as big as he is at 300 pounds, he's quick. A 4.57 40, and he does 32 bench reps. Like, this guy could be a menace. I'm really liking him. I just don't know when to try and draft him. Like, we might need to watch and see where Floyd Brown goes. Let's look at that in the draft. And now let's go to middle linebacker. Why? See, I didn't learn anything about Tremaine Williams either. Such garbage. I think what we needed... And honestly, I like McPherson. So, like, I'd be okay with either of these guys. I think Williams is the better of the two. But the bottom line is, if I can get McPherson in the second round... and use my first round pick to get this guy, I think I'm okay with that. I want to look at the mock draft and see how many ends are slated for the first round ahead of Webster, because that'll tell me if, like, do I need to trade up to get him in the second round, or do I need to try and trade up and get a linebacker? So there goes a left end right there. That's the first one. And then there goes a right end, and he's a big body. There goes another left end. There goes the other right end. So I think that first, and there's another left end. So that first pick probably needs to be Webster. Because if we can get him, then, like, we're not getting this guy. But I'm not real crazy about this guy anyway. Frankly, the run blocking being that bad concerns me. And his physicals aren't anything earth-shattering. Stamina is F. Like, I don't think that's a wise pick with a first-rounder. So we would get the right end, and then I only saw one middle linebacker come off the board here. One. And that's it. So I think what we'll do is we'll take Webster in the first round. Then we'll just kind of watch and see what happens with the other middle linebackers. Because if we maybe can not trade up and still get McPherson in the second round, oh, that would be epic. But we've got to watch it closely. You see there over on the right-hand side, it has McPherson projected as the best middle linebacker, which is interesting because he's like 5th on the draft board. So anyway, I think we are ready to go ahead and move forward into the draft. I'm not going to go in and comb through the draft board position by position now. We'll do it as the draft is unfolding. I'll just pause things and we'll figure it out as we go. But let's go ahead and advance now onto the NFL draft and see who we can score in this one. All right, so here we go. Let's go ahead and hit square to pause the draft. And now we want to skip ahead, I think, pick by pick, just to make sure. You know what?
The Dolphins now on the clock.
Let's go ahead and just skip to our pick, because what I want to see, if Webster's there, we take him. If not, then things have been shaken up. How do I see? I want to see who all has come off the board already. How do I do that? Okay, so let's make our selection here. And it's Webster is the guy that we want here, if he's there. And he is. Now, again, we don't know his key ratings, which is a little bit risky, but the guy has just crazy good physicals. That kind of speed, as big and strong as he is going to be dangerous if this guy can learn to, like, you know, shed blocks and have, you know, finesse moves or whatever. The awareness is not the greatest, but play recognition is really good. I think this guy is going to be a stud. He's probably a hidden dev trait because of those physicals, and is the answer to the aging Shelby Harris. And there we go. So that is really good. Speed of 84 and strength of 86 is a pretty dangerous combination. 21 years old and a hidden dev trait. That guy could be a stud for a long time. So I'm happy with that pick. Now, what we need to do is go back into the draft board, and we've got to watch middle linebacker. Who all is still there? So 4 of those first rounders are still on the board. What I want to do now is let's try and see how long it is before we kind of think that Williams is going to come off the board. Like, if it gets to about the 10th pick of the second round, I might try to trade up and get him. If he's already gone by then, we will
now we turn to the Steelers. They're on the clock.
we will just wait a few more picks. What is going on? No. We want to just skip ahead one pick at a time. So the Seahawks take a wide receiver.
All right, the Ravens are now
Steelers took Hazelwood at left tackle. They need offensive linemen, so I understand that. Terrence Morris, we looked at him at strong safety, but we don't need him because we went and got, who was it, in free agency. So the Buccaneers taking a halfback.
Okay, next
there goes Tremaine Williams. First pick of the second round, which is not good because now I got to be a little bit careful here. We'll go to like the 6th pick.
And the Eagles on the clock now. Let's see what direction
we just got to hope that McPherson doesn't come off the board before then.
Time is ticking. Okay, it's the Falcons.
Okay, there goes Winston. I'm not going to risk it anymore because I have a feeling that McPherson is the next one to come off the board. So let's go see about making a trade. We need the 5th pick from the Falcons in the second round. I got to see what it's going to take to get them. Dang it. All right, so we will give them our second round pick. I don't think there's any question about that. And then let's see about maybe, well, let's actually look at positions to see if there's anybody that I'd be okay to move away from anyway. How about Shelby Harris now that we have our right end of the future? That could be an option. I wonder if they have any interest. They need a left end. We'd be giving them a right end. Let's see if they'll take this for their second round pick here. So let's go to the Falcons. They don't show a lot of interest in Shelby Harris. So that's not good. We're at least going to try it. That would put them over the cap. So we pretty much can't trade them players. They have no cap room. So it's going to have to be more draft picks. So that hurts. But I think what I'll try to do is maybe give them like a 5th rounder this year and maybe a 3rd rounder next year. You know what? Before I do that, let's see if they're dumb enough to take the 2nd and the 5th. Close. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to make it a 2nd and 2 5ths. And I'll bet you they take this.
All right, now. Looks like there's a trade coming in.
So now we go get McPherson at middle linebacker. And the hope here is that he's like 73-ish and a hidden dev trait. He has to be good enough that I can play him this year. And we've got guys that are already up in the mid to high 70s. So I'm a little bit concerned about that. But I think he's going to end up being pretty good. Again, B for tackling. He's got respectable physicals. The speed is there. The strength is there. The agility is okay. You know, he's pretty much top 10 or top 5 in all of them. And then all B's here is another good sign.
The Bengals now on the clock. Let's see.
Normal dev trait. Dang it. That hurts. But he's an 89 for speed. He's got good acceleration. The agility is okay. Change of direction is a little bit of a concern. But I think this guy will be all right. That one stings a little bit because we traded up for it and didn't get the hidden dev trait. But it is what it is. So now we have addressed, and he might not be ready to start this year, but that's okay. All right. So now we need if there's a right tackle that's still there
Next up,
somehow,
it's the Broncos on the clock.
or a left tackle that, one of the guys that we looked at would be fantastic, but I highly doubt it. So let's just see what's out there. It was left tackle. Yeah, I mean, John Hayward, let's see how good you are. Can't run block. His physicals are not very impressive. He's injury prone. That guy's terrible. Dang it. This is going to hurt. But again, we went and got Dillard, who we think is good enough to start this year. I know that we looked at these guys, and this guy was moving way down the draft board. C for run blocking. Those are all just kind of blah. What I'll do actually at this point is let's go and try and find the best player on the board. And how about a corner? He's moving way down the draft board. What is up with that? We need a corner. We also could use some wide receivers. Let's actually go here and say, oh yeah, see, we don't need this guy. Don't need you anymore, my man. Why is this guy moving so far down the board? He can't cover. And we do a lot of zone coverage, so yeah, this guy, he's trash. Just forget him. All right, what about Marvin Logan? 6'3" wideout out of Louisville. He's got C for catching. His physicals are nothing earth-shattering. F awareness, nope. You're not showing me a whole lot that stands out there, dude. Raheem Northrup. D release. He's 6'3", but 195. Hopefully he's got some speed. He does. Not very strong, but he does look like he's got pretty good quickness. Specialty catch D, release D. All D's and F's, I can't pick you. If I would see some B's and C's, I'd be on board. What about Brian Meander? Did we look at this guy? Or did we just decide that we're not getting... Yeah, he can't run block. He's quick, but he's not very strong. And again, all D's and F's. Come on. How about Daquan Burgess? He's 6'2". He's a big guy, 226. B for catching traffic. The speed and quickness aren't the greatest, but the guy can jump, and he's fairly strong. Can break tackles. Spectacular catch is good. Catch in traffic is good. This could be a good option for a physical wideout. He might need a few years to develop, but let's leave him at the top of the draft board for right now. Daquan Burgess. How about Chester Carden? North Dakota State, right tackle. D. Not very likely that I'm going to take you, although he is very athletic and decent strength too. But everything is a D except for his ability to stay healthy. So we're leaning towards the wideout. Daquan Burgess. Look a few more down here. Sean Medlock, what do you got? Can't catch in traffic. Those are not very impressive. Let's just take Burgess. Let's go with him, hoping that he's a wideout that we can use in the future.
All right, the Seahawks are now on the clock.
Normal dev trait, 87 speed. The acceleration and everything are actually pretty good. 90 for jumping. Again, the hope here is that this guy turns into a good physical receiver if he can learn to run routes and just kind of use his body to make those plays on 50-50 balls. That could be a pretty good weapon for us at some point. All right, let's now try and find Let's see. We got another
The
receiver.
Broncos are on the clock now.
We need a corner, a tackle, and a punter. So I wasn't really crazy about any of the tackles that were out there. So I think, well, Max Mack is still on the board, but remember, we decided that that guy is trash. So what about Donovan Stewart? Projected third or fourth rounder. D zone coverage concerns me. He's strong. Pretty decent cone drill. Nothing else there that's super impressive. F for injury. Forget it. I'm not doing it. I would draft you and trade you away before I actually let you play. All right. 21 years old. He's got pretty good physicals. The speed isn't that impressive, but everything else is really good, which I like. A for injury, C awareness, C hit power, D stamina. That's a maybe. Again, we're late in the fourth round here. I don't think we're going to find anybody better than this, so let's just go ahead and go for it.
Now the Seahawks
Got to
are
hope
on
that
the
he's a...
clock.
Ooh,
Who do
hidden
they
dev
have their
trait.
eye on?
Nice. Just have to hope that he's polished enough that we can find ways to get him into the lineup, like as the dime back. But you got to be like low 70s. And I'll bet you he's not quite there. If he is, that could be the steal of the draft so far. So, all right. So we got our corner. Now we got to find a safe or a tackle. What is oh, we traded our fifth round pick.
It's the Broncos and time is ticking.
So just find any offensive tackle that has any kind of promising features. This guy played at Alabama. He's moving up the draft board a little bit. He can't run block. Is he injury prone? We don't know, but the bottom line is I'm probably not getting anybody that's very good this deep in the draft. The fact that he's got respectable physicals and he played at Alabama, I'm just hoping that he's like low to mid 60s. Just don't be like 59. So now we just need a punter, and we're done. So I feel like this draft went pretty well with the exception of McPherson not having that hidden dev trait.
All right, the Broncos
but we'll know more when we actually get to see how good these people are. So, what do we have for punters? Sorry, I was distracted. Basically, all we're looking for here is leg strength. So when we go to physicals, kick power, marginal, nope. Who's next? We're looking for kick power, great, or elite. Solid is better than marginal, so Gervasi is now up there. Solid. So it's between Gervasi and Sherman. This isn't going to matter all that much because if our offense is doing their job, we shouldn't need to punt anyway. Another solid. So far it's everybody but the first guy. That what we'll want to do is just compare everything else that we know. Okay. So it's the three in the middle. Let's start down here and see what else we know. There's only 5 punters. So if we look at physicals, this guy's toward the bottom of all of them, so he's out. Gene McDaniel, thank you for playing. Brett Sherman. What you got for me, dude? Second and first in all of them in the combine, and then he slipped a little bit in pro day. but it's bench reps where he slipped the most, so I don't really care about that. I'm looking for a little bit of athleticism, basically. Let's see how the other guy did. So, Gervasi, he's the fastest. Screw it. Let's just go with this guy.
Next up, it's the Seahawks
It doesn't
on
really
the clock.
matter. Kick power 90 is pretty decent. I'm happy with that. It's not going to matter that much. He's probably going to be like a high 60s, but it's a punter. All right, so let's advance. That'll get us to the end of the draft. And it is time to see how we did. Let's go to draft. Recap. Who's coming back from injury? Cortland Sutton. Who doesn't matter. We'll get to the preseason and see all that stuff. All right. Come on, baby. How did we do? Okay, so a 76 and a hidden dev trait. He's going to be the starter, and he's going to be there for a long time. Then McPherson, a 75 overall. I think that might be good enough for us to just go with him, but maybe we, legitimately let Kenny Young have his, position since he's played well for us the last couple of years, but I think it's likely that we go with McPherson. Now, Burgess was a normal dev trait, wasn't he? Yeah. So he's 68 overall. He's a physical archetype, which we kind of expected. Within a couple of years, he'll be good enough that we can start using him on some deep routes and stuff. Then Bryant, man-to-man, he's only a 66 overall. This is the guy that was the hidden dev trait. We need him to get up into the low 70s before we can play him, but maybe he's like a good kick returner or something. We can use that to get him some XP. Meander, a 61 overall, which is actually not terrible for as a late 6th round, tackle who we knew was going to be a backup anyway, but he probably won't get to play very much ever. And then Gervasi, 66 overall punter. The 90 kick power is really all that we were looking for. Anything lower than that would have been a little bit disappointing, but I would have liked about a 94. But all in all, I'm okay with that draft class. Again, the one disappointment was McPherson not having the hidden dev trait. But if I play really well with him, he'll get it. And then look out. So let's go ahead and... Why does it say... Why can I... Oh, okay, advanced week. I don't think I needed... Actually, yeah, I do need to adjust the roster. Because we're going to put Dillard at right tackle instead of left tackle. And that's probably the only change we need to make, right? So QB, we're now good. Halfback, we're good. Fullback, we're good. Wide out, we're good. Tight end is good. Dillard will shift to the right side and hold it down for us at right tackle. Did we sign him for 2 years? I feel like we did. So he goes to right tackle. We'll move somebody to left tackle, but it won't really matter who. Left guard is good. Center, good. Right guard, good. Left tackle, it doesn't really matter who we move here. Let's maybe just move this rookie. He's going to be 3rd on the depth chart at both left and right tackle. So it doesn't matter too much which position he's listed at, but we'll do that just so we've got balance on the depth chart, or on the roster. Left end, Draymond Jones. Right end is now the rookie, James Webster. So look for him to have a good year. That speed and strength combination, I think, could be really good. Now, I'd like to see more in terms of his finesse moves, but I think that guy can make some plays for us. Then we've got DJ Jones and Johnston as the D tackles, and I think we're going to go ahead and make Johnston the starter this year. He's got better strength. He's got better finesse moves by a long shot, and he's got better speed, and with that and the finesse moves, I think he could be the better player. So Malik Reed at left outside linebacker. Here's where it'll be a little bit interesting because I kind of need to decide what we're going to do. I think we might go with McPherson. He's got better speed, better acceleration, better agility, better change of direction. He's stronger. He's the worst tackler out of the group, and his awareness is down, but it's get to the ball and make plays. If you miss a tackle here and there, I think I can live with it. Bradley Chubb at outside linebacker is pretty obvious. Now at corner, it's going to be these two. We're not super strong at corner. Surtain is fine. We'll put him on an island for the most part, and I feel pretty good about that. Darby will be okay for another year. Ojemudia is okay. Nick Nelson is a little bit of a liability, but he won't be on the field too much. And then Simmons at free safety is still a rock star. That'll help. And then Willis is going to be okay. And we've got him for a couple of years, so I kind of like where we're at defensively now. We really improved our situation this offseason, I feel like. So, punter, who cares? So that's it for the roster moves. We are ready to now advance into the preseason. And then what I will do is I'm just going to sim all of the games and then show you the results of all of them after we've wrapped up the preseason and are ready to jump into the regular season. All right, so we've made it through the preseason. Now, before we do all the stuff to kind of get ready for week 1 action where we will be heading out to Detroit to take on the Lions, what I want to look at is the schedule and go back to the preseason activity and just kind of show you what went down in the preseason. So, let's pull these up. We went 3-0. We beat the Seahawks on the road, and the score was 31-14. Now, I can't go and actually look at box scores at this point, which kind of stinks, and I didn't realize that would be the case. But the bottom line is we win all 3 games. We put up a bunch of points here in week 2 against the Saints, and then had a tough one against the Giants, but we managed to get a victory. Now, that said, obviously it's good that we're playing good football in the preseason, although it's just the preseason, so we don't want to put too much stock in it either way. However, that's a good sign. Now, we'll look here to see if there's any news as far as the draft goes, and so far there is nothing. This is all stuff from the last draft class, so nothing noteworthy there yet. We've signed our scouts. And I'll show you who we got and kind of how we assigned them for now. The prospects won't, actually they are available, so we can actually look at those in this round. But first, let's go show you the scouts that we selected. I think our priority going into next season, we want to try and get a corner and a D tackle. I picked D tackle as the national scout because even with Spencer Johnston there, who I think could be really good for a while, I'm considering adding somebody else there just to give us either A, some really good depth, or the ability to maybe trade Johnston, who we could get tremendous value out of as young as he is. He's not super well polished, but he's got some serious upside as young as he is. Anyway, that's something that we're looking at. And then I've got 2 corner scouts with Rondé Barber as our tier 2, and then another one here. Then we've got a wide receiver scout and a halfback on the potential go find list. So we're at the point in the franchise where, excuse me, I feel pretty good about our team right now. We still need to kind of just keep bringing in pieces that will help us long term, but I feel like as far as going and finding short term fixes, we're past that point where we should be good for a little while at almost all of our positions. Just by picking up some depth guys through free agency and then drafting guys that we expect to be starters eventually. Um, Looking at the draft class, there's a couple of stud QBs in the mix. There are 4 pretty good halfbacks from the looks of things, so that's a good sign. We might try and get somebody there to just get a little bit younger and kind of backfill that spot as we go. Although we're happy with Williams, obviously, and then we've got the rookie coming up through the ranks, or at least a second-year guy now that could be an option for us down the road. Wide receiver, there is a stud coming out of USC, and then you've got one more projected to go for sure in the first round. Then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 first or second round talent guys. That's good because I think that's a position that we're going to look to take with our first round pick, perhaps, if there's a guy that's there that we think is a rock star. Not really in need of a tight end at the moment. Tackle is still something that we kind of need to address, and here could be a chance to maybe snatch one of these guys late in the first round. We're not getting this guy, but maybe one of these 2 guys is still there and we think has some upside, so that's a possibility. Then at guard and center, and then there's a couple of potential right tackle options. At left end, I think we're going to stick with Draymond Jones for a while. Now, this is a really deep class here. You've got 5 guys slated to go in the first round, but really only this guy is big enough that I would consider him for our 3-4 system. And then at right end, we just drafted a stud, so I don't need to worry about that. D tackle, there's only 3 guys that are up here in the first or second round kind of projections, so it's a little thin there. We might not be able to snatch up I'm looking for a monster that maybe we trade up to like the number 12 pick to get, and they're, just an absolute, behemoth up the middle to line up at nose tackle. We could use a left outside linebacker as well. I didn't really think through my scouting selections, frankly, as well as I probably could have, admittedly, but it's not a big deal. It really doesn't make that big of a difference. Shaq Campbell could be an option. There's a couple of guys here at left outside linebacker that we maybe might consider to replace Malik Reed at some point. We're not doing anything at middle linebacker for a while. Right outside linebacker, we've got Bradley Chubb, but there are a couple of options there. It's pretty light at corner. Nobody projected to go for sure in the first round. That's not a good sign. Free safety, very light. And strong safety, there are a couple, but again, we're already pretty well set there now that we've got what's-his-face locked up for a 3 or 4 year contract with us. So that's a look at the draft class. And now really the only thing we need to do before we wrap up this episode is just a quick look at what we're going to do for our depth chart this season. So what I want to do is we're going to go into the depth chart here. And we're going to auto reorder it first, just to give us a baseline to work off of. Brett Morris, obviously the starter at QB, with Minshew Mania backing him up. Then it's going to be Williams, Cohen, Stevenson, Hawkinson in that order at halfback. Fullback will be Alec Ingold. Wide receiver should be pretty straightforward here, although I think we might be at a spot where we switch these 2. I think Judy is the better of the 2. Tim Patrick is starting to regress. As you can see, he's down to a 78 overall. Hamler is closing the gap on him. Then you've got Hinton and the rookie Burgess down in the 6th spot on the depth chart there. At tight end, straightforward there, Fant, Alberto, and Saubert. Left tackle will be Bowles. The rookie Meander is not going to be the backup. He is actually going to be third string behind Will Richardson Jr. So we'll go like that. Left guard is going to be Moody with Butker backing him up. So we're getting young on our D line or our O line here. Cushenberry at center. Wilkins will back him up. Then we're going to go with Miners at right guard. They're the same overall. Miners is young, has that star dev trait. So we're going to give him that spot and see how he does. And then at right tackle, it's Dillard. And then Richardson. And I guess Glasgow would be a pretty good option as the third stringer. He's tall enough to play right tackle. He's going to be the second string guy. So he's pretty much first guy off the bench at guard and tackle. So let's go like this. Boom. And boom. Yep, that'll work. Now, left end is going to be Draymond Jones, and Ajim will back him up. The tackle, or right end actually, is Webster, and then Harris. And they've got Stephen Weatherly as the third string. I don't care that much about that. Now, D tackle, we're actually going to go with Johnston here and try and get him up to like an 80 overall by the end of this season, just by getting him the experience. He, even though his overall is not as high, he's got more strength and he's got more speed and finesse moves, and I think that combination could give him enough to maybe make some plays just by kind of throwing some guys off of him and going and making a tackle. Malik Reed at left outside linebacker. Now, all these guys are getting boosts, and I can't remember exactly why that's the case, but like they've got Jewel in the starting role. I am going to just leapfrog McPherson all the way up to the top, and Jewel goes down to the third spot. I know that that's kind of, a little bit unorthodox here because technically we're going with a rookie, no experience, who's arguably not as good anyway. But I think we're going to invest in our youth here. There's only a 1 overall difference between these three guys. I'm going to see what we've got in this rookie, and I think with his athleticism and me controlling him, he could be a pretty good playmaker for us. It's going to be an adjustment getting used to him flying around versus Kenny Young, who there were times where I'd be running around with Kenny Young and I was thinking that he was hurt because he was moving so slow, but it's because like his change of direction is terrible. He has no agility. Just anytime you try and go from one direction to another, it was like he was running in quicksand sometimes. So that'll be a little bit different, but I think we'll be better off there. Bradley Chubb at right outside linebacker is the obvious decision. In fact, I'm actually going to go here, and we're going to put Kenny Young as the second option there. That way, what would happen, if Chubb gets hurt, Young would come in and play that role, and Jewell would step in as the backup or the second middle linebacker in the 3-4. And that way those guys get some playing time anyway. So that's that. Corner, it'll be Surtain, Darby, Ojemudia, Nelson. Bryant only got 1 overall boost in the preseason, but it's better than nothing. He's up to a 69 overall, and I think that is with boosts because Darrelle Revis got inducted into the Hall of Fame. Not sure how that impacts our team, but apparently EA Sports believes that it should. Simmons at free safety. Willis at strong safety. McManus will kick. Gervasi will punt. Kick returns. It is going to be the rookie Corey Bryant. As you can see here, 96 overall. Now, the one thing that concerns me a little bit here is his carrying. But I think we're going to go with this dude. Like when you really look at like what this guy is bringing to the table from a physical attributes perspective, Cohen's better. He's faster. He's got better agility, better acceleration, better change of direction. He's stronger, and he holds on to the football better. But they say that this guy's a really good kick returner, and I want to get him some XP, so we're going to just do it. Hopefully, he never fumbles. That's the only thing that I'm worried about. We're never going to be taking him to the house anyway, so let's just see what this guy can do for us in that role, and hopefully we get lucky. Kickoffs, it will be McManus, I suppose. Doesn't really matter. Cushionberry, the long snapper, doesn't matter too much. Third down back, we're going to go with Stevenson. He's close enough now to where Cohen at his age is probably going to get worse this year. And let's go ahead and give the youngster the chance there. So that's that. It'll be Williams as the power back. Slot receiver is going to be Tim Patrick and Hamler. I'm not real crazy about this. I almost want to put Judy here and put Patrick on the outside when we go 3 or 4 wide. In fact, I'm going to do that. Let's get Judy into the slot because I like to throw to the slot guy. And so what that'll do is he's going to get more targets. When Patrick gets targets, it'll be on deep balls that I like his height and his size to try and go up and win those. And that's kind of what we envision his role being on the team this year. So that's that. Yeah, that'll work. Left end against, or in nickel packages, they bring in Bradley Chubb. I'm not going to mess with this too much, assuming, see, I kind of want Webster on the field in these situations because he's got speed and strength. He doesn't have like the finesse moves or whatever that Jones does. I'm going to put him in there as the second guy on both sides. So, where is he? He's going to be my second option in both of those situations. So anytime there's an injury, he's the guy. Now, they probably have him in at D tackle for these situations. Then they do. Or wait, no, that's still the end. But they do have him in there. And then Shelby Harris is the third option there. But I don't even like him in that role. Let's go with Draymond Jones there. Actually, wait a minute. Let's go with Johnston there. Yeah. DJ Jones will be our D lineman or D tackle in the rush scenarios. I need to make sure that we've got... Oh, I put Johnston in as the starting D tackle, so we're good there. Okay. So linebacker... where's my boy? McPherson. Man, he is not very good as the pass coverage guy. But if he's my starter, he's my starter. Period. So that's what we're going to go with. I am a little bit worried about that when I simulate games, however. So that could be a concern. But let's get him XP. Let's hopefully get him up to a star dev trait and go from there. Nickel corner is OJ Mudia and Nelson. And then they've got Jamar Johnson as the third guy. He's a 73 overall. You know, Bryant is only a 68. That's too big of a gap for me to justify. So we'll stick with how that is for right now. And as Bryant gets better, he will earn his way onto the field in those situations. But for right now, he's just not good enough. So McPherson is probably the one concern going into this season, particularly in those passing situations where we're in a nickel, and he is going to be more than likely dropping back into coverage. In games that we simulate, he could be a liability there, especially against teams like Detroit or others that might have a really good tight end that could exploit that. So anyway, that is going to do it for this episode. We'll have Season 3, Week 1 action in the next episode. We'll probably also get Week 2 and or 3 action in. So more to come on that front. But if you have not done so already, please be sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, comment below, and we will see y'all next time.
Good evening, friends and neighbors. Or shall I say this afternoon?